So it's been a few days since we found out the new changes, the new features that are coming to career mode in FIFA 20, and I said I would do a more in-depth look, and I decided to just leave it a couple of days, especially because I knew the beta was coming out and I'd have a chance to actually play it. Now, this video does not contain information or images or video of the beta itself. You are not allowed to share it at all. So everything I'm going to be talking about is based off the pitch notes that EA released just a couple of days ago, talking about all of the changes, all of the fixes and improvements that we can expect to see in career mode for FIFA 20. And I'm very excited because a couple of the changes they have made may not be absolutely groundbreaking, shiny new features, but actually they're very important changes under the hood, system changes that will change the way we play the game. Arguably the biggest change this year will be the new dynamic potentials. We will touch on that in a little bit. First of all, we're going to talk about the press conferences and the player interaction. So one thing they've really talked about and worked hard on is being able to really affect your players' morale and to represent your club, yourself, to the media and actually answer questions and things like that. So before and after every single game you play, you will have the opportunity to talk to the press, the media, and also interact with your players. You can, of course, not do it. You can completely avoid it. But with the new morale system, it is pretty important that you keep your players happy. So you really do want to be attending these press conferences. And you can approach them in any way you want, really. It, of course, depends on your current form, where you are in the table, and, of course, what questions you get asked. So, for example, you can reply with something that's praise, motivational maybe. You can criticise, you can be sympathetic, you can also just be calm, which gives you a lot of opportunities to influence the way your players feel. You know, the way that they react to certain things that you say will change the outcome of your career mode. It's very simple. Keep your players happy and they will perform on the pitch, right? So to speak. Now, of course, you're still controlling the players. So let's say, as an Arsenal fan, let's say we've got Aubameyang. He's playing okay at the moment. Let's say he's in average form. He's doing his normal thing, right? He's scoring a couple of goals every now and again, right? If you go ahead and interact with him before the game and say, look, I have faith in you, you're going to have a cracking game here against Tottenham, you're going to score loads of goals. Let's say his morale has gone from average to very happy. Is he actually going to perform better on the pitch? Because you're still controlling him. It doesn't affect his stats. You know, if he was to go into the match very unhappy, that doesn't mean he's going to start the match with less finishing, less acceleration, things like that. And it's the same the other way around. If you make him feel good about himself and praise him, he's not going to go into the game with better stats. So I'm not actually sure how much of a difference it's really going to make when it comes to your player performance. But certainly when simulating matches, which they haven't changed at all, which is a massive, massive issue, I really feel like they should have changed the way you can simulate games and actually have control of substitutions and maybe jumping into the game at a certain point. But this is where I think the player morale and doing press conferences is very important. If you're planning on simulating games, you're going to, of course, want to keep your players happy, and maybe then you'll get a higher chance of getting a victory during that simulation. But when it comes to actually playing the matches, I don't know how much this is going to do. If their morale is high and they're playing well, does that mean their stats improve quicker? Because with the new potential system, we don't have a set potential. We've got Ramos right now. Let's say his potential is 91 in FIFA 19, of course, because he's 91 and he's over 30 years old. His potential is not going to be higher. Maybe this is a bad example. Let's take Martinelli, the new Arsenal striker, or winger if you want. Let's say he's got a potential of 85 in FIFA 19. In FIFA 20, he doesn't have a potential. No players have a potential. It is entirely dependent on how they play, how many games they're playing, if they're scoring a lot of goals, which means older players don't go down so quickly if they're playing well and in good form. And of course, it also means you can sign a player that maybe looks incredible for the future. Let's say you sign Ryan Sessegnon. He's just gone to Tottenham, right? You would think he's going to be a great player, right? If you don't play him, or if you only play him a couple of games a year and he really struggles, he just isn't going to grow. You can get flops now. You can get flops in FIFA career mode, which is a massive, massive thing. But how much does the morale system and the player interaction have an effect on all of this? That's what I want to work out. That's what I'll be doing while playing the beta, and I'll be providing feedback to EA, of course. But I'm hoping that this is all tied in, that it isn't just, oh, cool, I spoke to my player and his bar is now green instead of orange, right? Great. But how does it actually affect your players? Next, let's take a look into the manager customization. A little bit of an underrated thing that I think not many people are talking about, but you can be a female manager now. Not that that's... I mean, that shouldn't be groundbreaking. This should have been a thing years and years ago. They've only just about added customization. I mean, to think we're in 2019 and this is a new feature that you can actually change the way your manager looks. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. But it's here, so I guess we have to be grateful for it. You can actually pick any of these managers in the lineup here and then go ahead and edit them. So there's different body types. There's obviously female and male. When it comes to actually changing the way they look, you're going to be using this new system they've got where you can do face, skin color, eye color and shape, eyebrows, nose, lips, jaw, chin, ears, hair and facial hair. Now, that's great and it's awesome that you can do this. The big thing for me is outfits. You know, if you're really into the customization of things, how many outfits are we going to have? Are we going to be able to completely change the color of our blazer, our tie, our shirt? So that's a big thing for me when it comes to customization. Here you can see you can put hats on. You can have, I mean, I'm guessing you can do long hair if you're a female and short hair if you're female, or maybe long hair as a male as well. Obviously, it doesn't really matter. This is just something to talk about because it's new, but I like this. I think it's great. It should have been in the game a long time ago, but it's good that it's finally here. Another thing that's cool but not really incredible, and that's the fact that we've got these themed menu designs. So when you're going into a Premier League game, you're going to get this, basically. If you're going into a Champions League game, you're going to have that background, which was already in FIFA 19. Same with Europa League, I believe. So we've got the Champions League one here. It looks cool, don't get me wrong, but in terms of actual features, this, of course, doesn't really excite me too much. One thing that is good though is we've got new cutscene areas, new designs. So this is the high-rise building type one. I mean, honestly, it looks like you're in kind of like a New York, maybe like a Hong Kong, in a tall building, and you're doing your negotiations there. There is apparently a restaurant one. There is, of course, one where you're in your office. So that's always nice, but again, it's not really a gameplay feature. It's not a career mode game-changing feature. It's cool. It's stuff that's good to have. But realistically, you know, when I'm reading through those pitch notes as my first reaction, you saw this kind of thing was actually kind of exciting. I was very hyped about it. It's just cool to have something new. But when you actually think about it, it's just a room, isn't it? It's cool, but it's not great. Now, one thing that definitely needs work in career mode is just seeing data, being able to see things that you need to look at and do it quickly, things just to get information about your team right. They've done some good work here. You can see it's much easier to compare players now. You get side-by-side comparison. I really like the new stats. So the way they show the stats in this menu, at least, they use those bars at the bottom. You can see when one's green, it means they're better than the player that you're comparing with. You can see all their positions in one go. You can see their weak foot skill moves, their attacking and defensive work rates. And when you slide to the right, I'm presuming you will see all of their actual stats based off each other. You compare them, which is really nice. And I've got to say, although the UI is basic, it's nice and clean. I really like the grey background. I don't know why, I kind of like that. But the main thing from this image that I noticed is you've got the morale on top of the player shirts on the left-hand side. You can see which players are actually happy. It seems like no one's unhappy in the Madrid side there. But what does that mean? When a player's happy, does that mean you can expect them to play better? Can you expect them to grow faster? I've already touched on this. There isn't any information out there just yet on how important morale is, but you would expect if they've spent a year working on this and it's this new system, this under-the-hood system that they're talking about, it should have a big effect on your players. I mean, Hazard, you can see in the top left corner, he's happy right now, or maybe he's very happy because it's a dark green. What would be the difference between that and maybe just content or normal? Does that mean that he's potentially going to lose some stats because he's obviously getting a bit older now, or does it mean that he's not going to grow at all? I would like to know what it means, because it's all well and great being able to talk to your players and keep them happy, and playing them in games means they will be happier, and if they're scoring lots of goals and just generally performing well, that's great, fantastic, but how does it actually affect the game? Another thing they showed us as well was the fact they use in-game screenshots as part of the news in the menu. I mean, again, it's cool, but is it really that incredible? I think that they could be doing a lot more with the news section. You know, how often do we actually go into our news page? How often do we see a player that's doing really well in a different league that maybe then you could scout? How often do we take a look at another team's results before we go into their game? How often do we actually see the top 3 players that came in the Ballon d'Or? You know, whatever. It's not very used, and this is a good step, I guess, in the right direction. Let me just go ahead and summarize here, because this video is more just my thoughts after a few days. Obviously, being a career mode YouTuber and having done this for so long, I know a lot of you guys are just interested in what I've got to say. Now, I'm a fan of some of the things they've done. I really am. The dynamic potential is huge. I mean, to those of you who don't know what this means, if I was to just sum it up for you, you can make your own stories. You can create your own legends. You know, when you're buying players in career mode, everyone goes for the same players. Everyone signs Tielemans, you know, Embolo, those young players in the past where if you bought them in Season 1, you know by Season 2 or 3 they're going to be world beaters and they will carry you to victories and things like that. That's gone. There is no predetermined gods of the game. You are going to have to work at getting those players growing faster, making sure they get game time. And it also means a team like Arsenal can go ahead and sign a player from the French Division 2, and it may be a player that no one's ever really taken notice of in real life, but you can turn them into the next Mbappe. It's obviously not very realistic if you're taking a complete unknown player and getting him to 99 rated, and I don't think that's necessarily going to be possible, but for sure, you can sign a 60 rated right midfielder for a top club. If you play that player, and if he does well and he scores lots of goals, he will eventually hit those heights that some of the other young players from other career modes would, that already had a set potential. You're literally just getting rid of potential. It's based off morale, I guess, and how well they're playing. You know, it's a huge game changer for career mode content creators and players alike, because I'm going to be able to create my own story. Every career mode is going to be different now. I'm not going to be signing the same 100 players over the year that have predetermined high potentials. So that's a big thing. The player interaction is very cool. I think it's not going to change the game completely. I think that actually eventually you're probably going to be a little bit bored of saying the same things to the same players. They keep badgering you, asking you for things, and you're going to eventually get bored of the press conferences. It's very possible that this is going to be a similar situation to pre-season tournaments, for example. Like, it's a great thing in the first few weeks, but maybe after a while you're just going to stop caring. You know, I have a feeling that whilst they may have included hundreds and hundreds of different dialogues and different answers to questions, let's be honest though, once the game's been out for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and you've played 3 or 4 career modes with multiple seasons, you're going to be doing the same questions, the same answers. We're going to find out little ways to maybe boost the morale a little bit easier than other ways. There will be certain answers to certain questions that you know will be successful if you say them. You know, you're going to work out little things like that, little shortcuts. And whilst it's great that it's in the game, and I am a fan of player interaction and press conferences and stuff, but is it creating a storyline? Is it going to change the way your career mode pans out by saying the wrong thing? If you say the right thing, does that mean your manager popularity thing will go up? And there's so many ifs and buts with this system, and I'm sure it's just the beginning and they are going to work on it. But I do have a feeling, and I know it sounds a bit like I'm a bit of a party pooper, but it could be one of those features that just after a while, you lose a bit of interest. You're just not so bothered about it because you're going to get the same things every career mode, the same positions maybe. If you're playing one striker a lot, your other striker's going to come to you and say, I want to play more games. If you're not going to play me, put me on the shortlist. You know, whatever it may be, you're going to get the same things. So that's why, in my opinion, the dynamic potential is the best thing we could have asked for. In terms of things that are missing, I made a little list. So just purely based on the pitch notes, we are missing, and I think these things would not have been hard to put in. Okay, we're talking 12 months since the last game came out, okay? Youth team. Where's the academy team, youth team? Outside of your youth academy, you know when you sign a youth player and you go ahead and they're in the youth academy, you can then bring them into the first team, right? But I'm talking similar to in Football Manager where you've got first team, under 23s, under 18s. Why haven't we got that? It can't be that hard, even if they put fake players in. Because if it's a problem where they just don't have time to scout all of the academy players around the world, I totally get that. But just make them up. It would have been nice to be able to drop first team players into the second team, bring players in, and it would be a real nice feature. And I'm sure it can't be too difficult. Contract improvements. Now, of course, we don't know per se if they've added that much when it comes to contracts. They haven't said anything in the pitch notes, but it could well be that when the game comes out that there are some other things. But from what I can tell, there is still no loan with option to buy. There is still no player swaps. So when maybe they want to, maybe a club like Atletico Madrid come into Arsenal and say, we want Aubameyang, I can't then ask them for Griezmann, for example. Like we can't do a swap. There isn't enough options there. They made improvements over the last few years, but there's still much more room. Simulation. I know a lot of people complain about it when career mode YouTubers simulate games, but if they made the simulation more interesting, where you're actually maybe watching the game, 2D circles, whatever it may be, you go 1-0 down, you can then shout to your team like in Football Manager, you can make substitutions, tactical changes, then that becomes more manager mode, doesn't it? It feels silly when you simulate a game with just a button, even though sometimes, you know, a career mode player or even a YouTuber is just bored of playing games right now. They just want to skip to the window, whatever, get a few games done, but you just feel bad doing it, don't you? We didn't hear anything on training. Nothing on training, which is worrying. I think the training is... It's obviously an important part of the game, and it does work very well. It's very efficient. If you put one player into training and do all 5 drills, you're going to get plus 10, plus 15 every season. It's pretty crazy. So I would have liked to have seen some training improvements. But again, we don't know if that's the case. They might be bringing something out. Who knows? Board interaction. Why can't I request more money? Has anyone thought that? You know, we were able to do that. Why can't we do that now? So many things in football goes through the board now instead of the manager. I should be able to go to the board and request many things. More wage money, more money to buy players, maybe a request to sell a player on my behalf because I'm struggling to sell a player. Maybe you've got a youngster that his wages are so high, and this is a problem in FIFA. It has been for a while, where your younger players are just earning too much money if you're a Premier League club. You can't sell them. Unless you get an offer from a Premier League club or maybe a Championship club, you can't sell them. So why can't I approach the board? And then the last thing here, database edit. Why am I still unable to edit the database when in career mode? Why can't I move players around? Why can't I change their stats, their work rates, their body? Why can't we just have a bit of fun? It's offline, you know. Why are we locked in? As soon as we start a career mode, that's it. You're done. No changing. You know, I would love to be able to, as a creator, have the freedom to be creative. You know, that would be great. And I just don't see how hard it could be when there's already an edit feature. It's just not in the career mode. Once you start your career mode, you can't then use that feature. Just move the feature into career mode, and it's something that I've put on the list for so many years. But in general, I am happy with the reveal. I think that career mode this year is going to be considerably better. I just don't know if it's enough. Is it going to be enough to keep us happy for 12 months? I think the first few weeks people will realise, especially with the dynamic potential, especially with the player interaction in the press conferences, It's a nice addition, but a lot of those things, outside dynamic potential and manager customization, I guess, it's kind of meh. There actually isn't that much added. And I think, though, you've got to see this as a step in the right direction. This is something that can be improved on. And that excites me. It just feels like it's too slow. I mean, I'm getting a year older every time we get an improvement, and it feels like it's going to be 10 more years of my life before I'm actually happy and content with career mode. And I want to make it perfectly clear, although I'm an EA game changer, if you don't know what that means, I'm part of a select few creators that have access to people at EA. We can talk to them, they send us invites to events, they do all sorts of cool stuff, right? Although I'm part of the Game Changers network, I will never, ever, ever suck up, or other terms that I won't use in this video, because there's no way I can get away with that without you guys seeing it. Of course, like, I could easily be making this video right now saying these changes are incredible, EA have absolutely done a great job, you should be buying this game. No, absolutely not, and they wouldn't want me to do that. I'm being completely honest with you guys. At first, when I read the pitch notes, I was gassed. I was really excited. The dynamic potential thing set me off, right? It's brilliant. But now that I've thought about it, and now that I can see there are big things missing, it's not ideal. It's not perfect, but I'm able to see that this is a step in the right direction. This is the biggest change we've had to career mode in years. And that's a good sign, but it doesn't mean that it's good again. It doesn't mean that career mode has been saved. It will be completely up to you guys if that's the case. When you get this game, when you play career mode for the first few weeks, how are you going to feel after those few weeks? Are you going to buy PES? Are you going to get Football Manager instead? What's going on with your life? That is how we know if this has been successful or not. But thank you for watching. Hopefully I got all my points across. I'm sure I've missed something in it. Let me just think about it. Is there anything that I've missed? I don't think so. I've covered the main points of the pitch notes that I liked. I've talked about what I think was missing. Yeah, I think we're good. We can leave it here. So thank you for watching. I'm going to go and play the beta. And hopefully I can enjoy myself and still critique it, give some feedback, and make this game better year after year, because it still needs a lot of work.